Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out till the wheels fall off. I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay. Red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
I think you're muted. My brother. No sound. You're hearing me fine? Yeah, I can't hear anything on your end.
How about now?
There you go. He's back.
That was crazy. That was crazy, Mo.
A little crazy. A wild Wednesday.
I felt like you stuck in Neverland yesterday.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen again. But yeah, let's not go back to Neverland.
Let's try again. Welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. I am Chris, and of course, over there, that is my man Mo. Mo, how are you on a hump day?
Hump day, sports day. Just all kind of movement in the NFL. NBA's got things going on. Major League Baseball's got things going on. What can you say? It's sports. We love it.
Things are going on everywhere. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. Whether you're watching us live right now on Facebook, maybe you're watching us live right now on YouTube, maybe you're over there on Roku TV. Thank you to our great friends over at Northeast Sports Productions. However it is that you are joining us, we appreciate that you are here this morning. And Mo, let's start off with this. Before we get to everything that happened in the NFL, before we get to Will this morning, before we get to the NFL Genius, let's kind of reset the deck once again. Let's take a look at what is left out there in the world of free agency after day 2 of the tampering window, because a lot of things happened yesterday, and we're going to get to those things a little bit later with the NFL Genius himself. But as you take a look out there, you still have your boy from San Francisco, Chase Young. He has not found a home yet. Mo, do you think the best home for him is returning to the Niners? Or what? Because obviously the end of the regular season and the initial part of the playoff run wasn't great for him. But he had a decent showing in the Super Bowl, I think anyways. So do you think that was enough to kind of rejuvenate the narrative that was created after his trade to the Niners? Or do you think the Niners are kind of looking at it as, we know what you are. Can't fool us. One game doesn't change anything. One half of a game doesn't change anything.
I think he does have value, Chris. The real question is, at what cost, but he does have value. Maybe when you look at Chase Young, not a guy who plays the predominant amount of plays, more of a rotational kind of defensive player, because I think he's effective in short stints. So I do think he has value. It's just at what price? Because I think there's teams that are interested in him, but they're not interested in him maybe at the number that he and his agent think he's worthy of.
And this is in no particular order, but Kendall Fuller, cornerback, he played with the Commanders last season, is still available. Calvin Ridley is still out there. Now,
Still out there.
Calvin Ridley is interesting, Mo, because he has been linked to the New England Patriots. However, it appears that Calvin wants to stay in Jacksonville. Jacksonville obviously just spent not a ton of money, but an interesting chunk of money on Gabe Davis. Jacksonville really loves to give money to wide receivers who are not number one wide receivers, but they want to pretend they're number one riders. It's a crazy world we live in Jacksonville, where they just shower money on average wide receivers and just hope for the best. Calvin Ridley, I think he has number one potential. Do I think he's number one on every team? No. I think he is a poor man's number one receiver. But when you're looking at a team that clearly doesn't have a number one receiver, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think he's a good fit there. When you're looking at a team like the New England Patriots, who I don't think have a clear number one receiver on their roster, I think he's a good fit there. Now, if I'm Calvin, do I want to go to the Patriots, Mo? I don't know who your quarterback is going to be. I know Jacoby's in the building. We know Jacoby's in the building, but I don't know who your quarterback is going to be. Reports came out yesterday that the Patriots aren't high on Drake May. So now you're like, okay, who are you high on? Are you McCarthy? Like, what does that look like? If you're not high on Drake May, I'm starting to get concerned that maybe we're going to see some Jacoby Brissett for the first half of the year. So maybe Calvin's like, nope, don't want to be a part of that. He's not signing
up for that.
No, let's not forget, Mo, no state tax in Florida. It's nicer weather. So I understand the attraction to Jacksonville, and he's probably looking at it saying, man, they're giving all this money to all these other wide receivers. Can I get a little bit? Can I get a little bit of that?
Can he get a little bit of that love? But he's not. That's another thing. If you're a wide receiver in the free agent market, the money is important, but you also want to be able to prove yourself and be productive. Guys have individual goals. You're not going to achieve those individual goals going to New England catching medicine balls over the middle. It's not going to happen. He's not going to put up big numbers in New England with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback or whoever they have there at quarterback. What he's going to end up doing is probably getting hurt. So it is smart to want to stay in Jacksonville because Sunshine is a much better option than anything they have in New England. And I think Sunshine is still developing. I still think he can become an elite quarterback. I don't think he's there yet. If I'm Ridley, I'm wondering what makes Gabe Davis more attractive than me? Because I know Gabe Davis is a good player, but I don't think he's a better player than Ridley.
And the Geek Gauntlet podcast asked in the chat, is Gabe Davis even a number 2 wide receiver? Well, I would say no.
No, because he had a chance to prove that.
Correct. He had the opportunity to be the number 2 in Buffalo this season after a couple of big games the season prior, a couple of big playoff performances, and he did not rise to the occasion when given the opportunity in Buffalo with a quarterback in Josh Allen who has no problem spraying the ball all over the yard and getting the ball to people who can get themselves open to make plays. So if you couldn't be the number 2 in an offense in Buffalo with a top 10 quarterback, with a pass-happy offense, with a team that was begging somebody to step up as the second option to Stephon Diggs,
right,
then I don't think you can be a number 2. So I think he is a 3. I think he's a 3 with big play potential. I think, 4, 5, 6 times a season, he might make a play where you're like, oh, Gabe Davis. But that's it. And as Gene and others are alluding to in the chat right now, and this isn't it is a knock on him, but it isn't. He's a really good blocker. He's a really good blocking wide receiver. But if that's the first thing you're going to say about Gabe Davis, and you're not going to talk about him catching balls, that kind of tells you where we are, Mo.
Right.
And you know who else are really good blocking wide receivers? Like the fourth wide receiver on your team.
Right. Or the guy that plays special teams, that
Right.
wide receiver.
Those
that
are also really good blocking wide receivers. Too. And that's why they make the team, right? If you're the fourth or the fifth guy in the depth chart, you got to be good at something else besides catching the ball. You're not there for that ability. You're probably good at blocking. You're probably good at special teams. You're probably good. You contribute to the team in other ways.
Right.
Gabe was not the number 2 in Buffalo. I don't think I guess by default, he's the number 2, 3 in Jacksonville right now. Okay. I mean, if you're Jacksonville, you need another receiver. And I'm not saying that Ridley lit the world on fire for you last season. But if you're going to roll in there with Kirk, who, by the way, I love Christian Kirk. He's not a number 1 receiver. He isn't. He puts up numbers. He makes plays. I have said this numerous times last season, Mo. The offense flows through him. But he is not a number 1 receiver. You have to give him another piece on the outside. He's not that guy. So if you're not going to do that, you're going to hamper Kirk's game, and you are going to hamper your quarterback, and you are going to condense everything. And you think there's medicine balls out there in New England. Well, what happens when they take Kirk away? Because that's Sunshine's favorite target. And now who's his favorite target? Davis? I know they got a decent tight end up there, but they got to figure out something on the other side of that wide receiver formation up in down in Jacksonville.
I agree. And look, they have talent, but like you said, they've never had just a out and out stud where you said that guy's a number 1. He's going to win one-on-one matchups every chance he sees them. I think Ridley can do it at times. And again, I'll go back to, I think Ridley's better than Gabe Davis. He's better than Christian Kirk to a degree. I think Christian Kirk's actually a better route runner. I think Christian Kirk is more precise, but he's not a number 1. And maybe what they're saying is, yeah, he's better than Gabe Davis, but by how much? They must measure it like Gabe Davis is somewhat like him and won't cost us as much money, or maybe he's not the headache in the locker room, whatever the situation might be. But if you're going to bring Gabe Davis in to be your number 1, it's going to be a long season because teams are going to press up on your wide receivers. Like you said, they're going to take away Christian Kirk and go, we'll single cover Gabe Davis.
Right.
We've seen him get locked up with single coverage. We're good with that.
And let's not forget, when we came into this free agent class, we said that it was thin at wide receiver. We acknowledged that the top 2 receivers in this potential class were going to be Calvin Ridley and Hollywood Brown. Say what you will about those being the top 2 anything in the wide receiver position, but that's what it was shaping up to be. And here we are entering, technically day 3, kind of day 3, tampering day 3, soon to be the actual start of free agency. And they're still out there, the top 2. So
it's been funny.
Yeah.
And it's strange. We're in the era where it is all about throwing the football down the field. It's the era where running backs are not valued. The running backs are making money. They're getting signed, and the wide receivers, be that it is made, it's a really small, it's not the strongest group. They're still sitting there. And I don't know about Hollywood Brown because I view him as a 3, maybe a 4. But I thought for sure Ridley would already be off the board.
Yeah, me too. Completely blown away. But yeah, that's where we are. Let's talk a little NBA right now. We're going to bring Will on to do that with us here.
How you doing today, gentlemen? Good morning.
Good morning, Will.
How are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain. Gene is killing me in the chat, by the way. He is killing me in the chat. Yes, game ball without a catch. Yes, that is so true.
So, Will, Kawhi Leonard left the game. He has back spasms. Kawhi has been relatively healthy the entire year. Is this just a blip? Or do you think as a Clipper fan, you need to pay attention because Kawhi and the back have been issues before? Backs can be tricky, and the last thing you want heading into the playoffs is Kawhi to be having back problems.
I would definitely be worried because of this time of the season. I would definitely be worried between his history of being injured and where you are right now. You're 5-5 in your last 10, and I think they lost their last 2, if memory serves. So I would be very concerned about this, particularly with the injury to Westbrook. How he's going to look when he comes back. But I'll be very concerned. I wouldn't just sweep this under the rug like it's nothing. Because when you go back and look at his injury concern, he's had lingering injuries to keep him out definite amount of time. So I'll definitely be worried.
Mo, as some of the other contenders in the West are getting injured, Minnesota, now the Clippers, we talked about it the other day, Denver is getting hot at the right time. They are rising up the ranks as others are kind of falling down. Mo, is this just kind of what we thought it was going to be? The cream's going to rise to the top at the end?
I think that's exactly what it is. The best team in the West / NBA, the defending champs, they seem to be catching their stride. Guys are getting healthy, and when they're whole, they're the best team in basketball. I don't care what the Celtics record is. I don't care what the Bucks record is. The best team in basketball, when everybody's whole, are the defending champion Nuggets. And look, I like the Clippers. I think they're entertaining, but I want to remind everybody they are an older team. And what older guys don't do is as they go through the season, they don't get younger. They don't heal faster. They're older. It impacts them. They change the amount of minutes they can play, what they can do. It's one thing, their mind might be saying slide left, but their body can't keep up where their mind is. You just get older. I think the Clippers are going to be entertaining. I think they're going to be a tough out. But I didn't come into this season thinking the Clippers were a threat to the Nuggets. I came into this season thinking I'd like to see the Clippers make the playoffs fully healthy and see what they can do. But I don't think they're an actual title contender.
Nope.
I think the only threat to the Nuggets or a team that has a puncher's chance. And I know they don't look great right now, but when I say puncher's chance, I'm talking Golden State. They have a puncher's chance. I don't think the Timberwolves can beat the Nuggets in a series. I don't think the Thunder can beat the Nuggets in a series. But I do think the Lakers can beat the Thunder. They're a bad matchup for the Thunder. The Timberwolves are a horrible matchup for the Clippers. It's a really weird thing that the West is going to be so much about matchups. The only team that can beat everybody in every matchup are the Denver Nuggets.
Well, there's been a groundswell of support, and it's been on and off throughout the season. But specifically the last 4 or 5 days, if you look across the NBA media landscape, for whatever reason, the Indiana Pacers have kind of become the darlings of the NBA media world the last week or so. There are multiple analysts who are picking them as a dark horse to make some noise in the playoffs and potentially go on a run. Will, are you signing off on this? Are you signing off on the dark horse potential of the Pacers?
Despite the fact that they're, I think, the 8th youngest team in the league, I'm sort of kind of getting behind that a little bit. They are playing well. They're very well coached. They can run up and down the floor. It won't be an issue of like an older team not being able to keep up. Experience, I think, will be the cause of them losing in the second round. But I can see why they would be a dark horse to some analysts because they're well coached and they're young. I think their overall age 25 years. So yeah, I'll put them in that dark horse category because of the youth and because of the coaching.
Mo, is this the season where we're finally going to trust the Boston Celtics? I know that this is the time of year for the past 3 or 4 years where we've all had to look in the mirror and say, are they? Aren't they? Is it time? And here we are again, less than 20 games to play in the season. They're the best team in the league record-wise at different parts of the season. They've looked like the best team in the league. But we all know what the Boston Celtics do in the playoffs. Where are you heading into the playoffs this year, Mo? Is it any different from any prior year?
Look, I think they can be different because of what a Drew Holiday does for them at the point of attack, what he can do for them with his ability to make corner threes, what Derek White can do on both ends of the floor, what Porzingis brings with his ability to stretch the floor. They're a little bit different. What my concern with the Celtics is I agree. I think they have the best starting 5 in basketball, but they don't have the best 8 in basketball or the best 9 in basketball. I think they're very thin on the bench. And bigger picture, Chris, doesn't it come down to one simple thing? They will go as far as Jason Tatum takes them, right? Like that we always go, is this the year? It's this the year that Jason Tatum breaks through and he's a superstar level player throughout the playoffs, because that's what it will take. As good as their starting 5 is, he needs to be a superstar throughout the playoffs. And I just don't know if I were a betting man, I would say it's 50-50, but I don't think it's a lock that the Celtics come out of the East.
Well, if they don't make it to the finals, is it a failure of a season?
I think so, because that's the expectation. That's the expectation with all the changes that they've made, is to reach the NBA Finals and to win the NBA Finals. And again, Jason Tatum is a question mark, particularly in playoff time. So if they don't make it, I think that's a failure.
Well, talk to me a little bit about John Wall. John Wall has come out and he is advocating hard. He is putting on the full court press that he wants to be a part of the Miami Heat because he is adamant he can help the Heat this season and into the playoffs. Well, what does John Wall have to offer the Miami Heat?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He needs to stop. He just needs to stop. Some players like to talk out the side of their mouth, and I think this is one time that he's talking out the side of his mouth. He needs to stop. Just stop. You haven't been relevant in how long? No, you need to stop.
Mo, you signing John Wall?
I am not, but I appreciate the career that he had, because when he was healthy, he was actually a very good two-way player. But the truth of the matter is, injuries and time have caught up to him. And look, if he was going to be a really good rotation player, he would have been a good rotation player when he was on the Clippers. And the truth of the matter is, he struggled in that role, a role that before he was injured, Russell Westbrook excelled at. So I just think John Wall's time in the NBA is over.
Well, I'm going to give you 5 coaches. I'm going to give you Steve Clifford from the Hornets, Jason Kidd from the Mavs, Darvin Ham from the Lakers, Chauncey Billups from the Trailblazers, and Monty Williams from the Pistons. Just based on those 5, which is on the hottest seat currently in the NBA?
Oh, Darvin Ham, for sure. They want Darvin Ham gone now. The way that team has performed, they're in the 9th seed right now. Their expectations for them to be a lot better than what they are. They want him gone now. And Mo can elaborate more than I can in terms of the fact that expectations have not been met there. The only reason why I give Monty Williams a pass, because that roster isn't the best in Detroit. They got a lot of personnel issues they need to work out. But I'll look at Darvin Ham and the Lakers because, again, championship expectations are there. Yes, the Pistons have fallen short of expectation with all those picks. But again, like I said, between that bad front office, no, I got to go with Darvin Ham because championship expectations will not be met this year.
Mo, I'll give them to you again. Clifford from the Hornets, Kidd from the Mavs, Ham from the Lakers, Billups from the Trailblazers, and Monty Williams from the Pistons. Whose seat is the hottest?
I actually think it's a tie between Monty Williams and Darvin Ham. I understand that they haven't done as well. I'm talking about the Pistons with all those top 10 picks. But here's the thing about those top 10 picks. They're not all very good. Like just because they were picked high, you just missed. You know what I mean? Cade Cunningham can play. The Ivy kid the only thing consistent about him is he's inconsistent. And the other guys, they're just guys that you could have drafted late first round, early second round. They didn't draft well. That's really what it came down to, poor roster construction. So I think Monty Williams is still on the hot seat because even with that said, they brought him there to be a statesman, to be a leadership, to be a stabilizing force. And I don't think you can tell when a young team is struggling and they don't play well, or you can tell when a young team is showing improvement. Even when they lose, they're in competitive games, right? They're just falling short. The Pistons get blown out almost on a nightly basis. So there's a lack of leadership, and that starts at the top with Monty Williams, but it's also the maturity of the players. Yes, it's a young team, but think about this. We were just talking a couple of weeks ago, guys, that one of their players, Isaiah Stewart, is waiting outside like, you guys go on in and do the layup line. I got to talk to somebody about something. And then he assaults somebody. That tells you a lot about the culture there in Detroit and the lack of leadership and accountability. And to me, that starts with the front office and it ends with Monty Williams. So I understand why he's on the hot seat. With Darvin Ham, I've told this to Chris before, and I'll say it again. You've got 2 top 10 players. I think you're the only one that has 2 top 10 players. I don't know what the excuses are, or unless it's that you do have 2 top 10 players and they don't, as a group, they don't impact winning like they once did. And I think that's also a fair statement as well. So I get it why he's under pressure, but when you watch the Lakers perform, Darvin Ham can tell you to play defense. He can give you the defensive play calls, but if you're bad at defense, he can't get out there and guard for you. They're bad defensively. They are. People want to say they're a good defensive team. No, Anthony Davis is a tremendous defender. But as a team, they're bad defensively. And if you can't get stops, you're not going to win. You're not going to go on a deep playoff run. Back to the Indiana Pacers real quick. Everything you said about Indiana, Will, I understand. But they're a lot like the Lakers. They can't stop a nosebleed. So
I agree with that. I agree with that.
They're exciting and they're fun to watch, but if you can't stop nobody, you're actually not a threat to win anything.
And that's why I said it, they're not going to win it. Of course, they're not going to win it because they don't have the experience to win it. They don't. They're, like I said, they're the 8th youngest team in the league. I just like the fact that they got spunk and they got some moxie about them. They're not going to lay down and just let you run over them. They're going to at least compete. But I agree with you on the Pistons. They're a bunch of Jags, just other guys. That's all they are to me. Bunch of Jags, just other guys.
Right. And we can't just kill Monty because you're like, well, Monty Williams, you got like 5 top 10 picks. Right. But how many of them are actually top 10 picks? Like, we know where you were picked, but where's your production and play say? Because your production and your play say we could have picked you up in the 2nd round.
I get why Monty Williams took that job. I get it. I understand it. He said so himself, the money. I get it. I understand it.
Man,
but
Monty,
was he
walk away?
Or was he sure? But was he sure what he was signing up for when he took this job? I mean, you got to have.
Will, I think they sold him. I think they sold him on what people were talking about. I think they said, right. Monty, you've got top 10 picks. Yep. You're going to come in there with these top 10 picks. We're going to let you develop them. You can develop guys, right? But they have to have that want in them too, right? Yep. You can turn coal into a diamond if the coal is willing to go that way, right? What if the coal just turns out to be a piece of dirt? I'm just saying that everybody doesn't develop into a star. True. And the truth of the matter is most of those young guys on the Detroit, they're just guys. There's nothing special about them.
Same thing with the Lakers rotation. Outside of Austin Reeves, just a bunch of guys.
They've got Cade Cunningham. I love the kid they picked up this last draft, Thompson. But when you look at the rest of the guys, there's nothing special about them. So Monty deserves criticism, but don't tell me that that's a talent-laden squad. They look good. They look good on paper, but if you watch Pistons games, and sadly, I'm that kind of guy, I will watch Pistons games. They're not any good, and it isn't all coaching. It's them.
Well, there's some things you should not mention on air. You should not talk about how you're watching Pistons games.
Punishment right there. Better than that, bro.
So I've got
better than that.
I've got the pack that the NBA package, so it doesn't always give me games that I just put random available. I'm just saying, I'm gonna watch what they give me.
Man, I get you though. Because like I said, I've been watching my Bulls and we've been terrible past few games. So we're gonna see. Maybe we can do a little something to play in. I doubt it, but maybe we can do something to play in and go from there. I doubt it, though.
Before we get you out of here, Will, 2 teams I want to talk about. They're both on the outside of the play-in game, looking in with less than 20 games to go. In the East, it is the Brooklyn Nets. They're about 3.5 out. In the West, it is the Houston Rockets. They are 4.5 out. which of those teams, not saying either will do it, but which has the best chance in the last 18 or 19 games to pull something off to try to slip in the back door and make the play-in?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I got issues with Brooklyn, so I'll go with the Rockets.
Everyone's got issues with Brooklyn.
I got issues with Brooklyn. I got
You
issues
know what?
with Brooklyn.
Of those two teams, I'm with Will. I would give the Rockets a better chance. I just think Brooklyn is in disarray.
Yeah. I think they're in disarray. And
All right, well,
and Ben Simmons is done.
Well, yeah.
He's done.
Well,
I saw Mo got rid of him in fantasy. So as soon as I saw Mo get rid of him, I knew it.
Hey, don't dime me out. You're diming me out on air? Oh.
That's savage.
As soon as Mo got rid of him, I knew what was up. I knew it.
This kid diming out.
Mo, you're gonna sit here on air and talk about how that young man needs to get his mind right, and you're praying for him, and then you go and cut him off your fantasy team.
Sorry, Mo, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was a secret.
First of all, fantasy sports is cutthroat, so don't kill me. Don't kill me.
Listen, Mo's trying to win a chip, right? He ain't got time for feelings and emotions.
Yeah, I don't, man. I'm cutthroat.
I don't blame you, bro. I don't blame you.
All right, we appreciate having you on here, Will. We'll see you next
Will.
week, all right?
Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all having me. Y'all have a good day. Take care.
You too.
Mo, I didn't know it was like that.
I didn't know he dimed me out. I mean, yes. So yes, you know how fantasy sports works and how they score points and stuff. So I was thinking outside the box. I didn't need Ben Simmons to be 20 points a game because that's not what he was. But as the season started out, he was exactly what I thought he would be. He was giving them like 11, 7, and 7. Perfect. A couple of steals. I was like, this guy, he's basically my Draymond Green. And then he started going with it's the ankle, it's the back, it's the shoulder. And I saw way ahead of time. I was like, I know where this is leading to. So I cut
writings on the wall.
Yeah, I got rid of him.
Mo, I don't want to get you too excited here. But there could be a moment in the future where we are not only referring to Aaron Rodgers as the starting quarterback of the New York Jets or a future Hall of Famer, but maybe we're going to refer to Aaron Rodgers as Mr. Vice President of the United States of America. Oh my God. I don't know how his head would fit through a door if he pulled that one off. If you haven't seen the news, Robert F. Kennedy is going to be running for president as an independent, and he apparently has a short list of candidates to be his vice presidential running mate. One of them is Jesse the Body Ventura, former WWE superstar and Minnesota mayor. I know he did something in Minnesota. Governor of Minnesota?
Governor, yep.
And the other person on his short list is the starting quarterback of the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers. We're not going to get too political here, Mo, but can you imagine Aaron in the White House?
You know what, though? He's got the ego for it, right? He's got the ego for it. And I'm not sure Kennedy's thinking straight on this because Aaron is the kind of vice president, he's going to kick the president's back in.
Right.
He's going to be like, that's this guy's policy. It doesn't make any sense to me, but that's this guy's policy. No.
You thought you got sound bites before from the White House. Wait till Aaron gets in there.
and Aaron seems like he might be an in-your-face politician. You know what I mean? Like what you say? Like he might be a little aggressive.
Hey, all I'm saying is darkness retreats for everyone. Mandatory. Everyone gets one.
And here's the thing. It must be nice if you're Robert Kennedy Jr. that you can blow millions of dollars on a whim, knowing damn well you're not going to win. But okay. I mean, it's entertaining, and I guess you're going to draw some attention to you. But in the real world, the chances of him winning are slim and none, and Slim's out of town.
I agree. I completely agree. Do you think part of him, when it's all said and done, and he garners like 1.2% of the vote, right? 1.2% of the vote is still a lot of people, though. Do you
Well,
think
it's gonna hurt
do you
somebody.
think he sits back and he goes, man, 400,000 people voted? Like, that's a lot of people that voted for me.
That is a lot, and I think he's gonna do like a victory tour, like over 400,000 people thought I was right.
Right. Well, there is someone that we think is always right, and that is the NFL genius himself, Gene from Wire to Wire Sports Podcast. He is going to be joining us right now to talk some of the NFL stuff, and there has been a lot of NFL stuff that is happening. Gene, how are you this morning, sir?
Good morning. I'm battling, but I'm here. I play hurt.
Gene is pushing through. He's been a little under the weather the last couple of days. Gene, we're happy that you're here. Let's start with this. This came completely out of left field. It was all over for a couple of days. Nobody understood why. Your team is at the center of this because you are the new home for running back Saquon Barkley. Went there as a free agent, chose to go there, received a decent amount of money to go there. By the way, for the record, the New York Giants offered him nothing. There was no deal on the table from the New York Giants. If he wanted to stay with New York, he didn't have the option to because there wasn't anything for him to sign. So he goes to Philly, and right away, Tiki Barber, beloved by some in New York Giant fandom. I've never been particularly impressed with Tiki Barber, but Tiki Barber comes out, Gene, and he's hurt. He is emotional. He cannot believe that Saquon Barkley, a New York Giant, would go and play for the enemy. I get it. It's in division. I would view Dallas as the bigger enemy of anyone in that division, but okay, if Philly's the biggest enemy, that's fine as well. He's dead to him. That's what he came out and said, Gene. You are dead to me because you chose to go and sign with our biggest rival, the Philadelphia Eagles. What the hell?
I mean, Tiki Barber's out of his mind. The first thing I thought of when I heard this was, all right, well, New York and Philadelphia had like very comparable contracts, and he chose Philadelphia to spawn on his team. And then you understand that the Giants franchised him last year, then decided not to pay him against his will. He didn't want to be franchised him last year. Then he signed a 1-year contract with them, basically to say, listen, if I sign this 1-year contract with you guys, you can't franchise me. And they agreed with that. Didn't offer him money, and the Eagles offered him the most money. They wanted him. Kellen Moore was very vocal to the Eagles front office that he wanted a running back of Saquon Barkley. That's the way he wants to run his offense. He did it with Zeke and Tony Pollard, and he just really needs a running back in his offense to be able to make it work properly. It's a perfect fit for Philadelphia. You have a great offensive line, good wide receivers, a quarterback that can run the ball. It's a perfect fit. Saquon Barkley has been begging for this type of surrounding cast around him. So we can get back to Tiki. It's very simple. If the Giants wanted him, they should have paid him. And if you think that Saquon Barkley needs to be loyal to New York when they've basically smacked him in the face the last 2 years, one with the franchise tag and second this year, not even offering him a contract, I would want to sign with a rival. I'd want to sign and get my get back against the Giants. And by the way, have you seen that Giants defensive depth chart? I'd want to run against them too.
Mo, this isn't sports of 40 years ago where everyone was basically making the same money, where the most important thing was the color on your back. This is a new age in sports. This is an age where players want to get paid. This is an age where players are going to advocate to get theirs because they know that their timetable to get theirs isn't super long. This is a business. And if you look at it that way, he worked for one company. That company basically said, we don't want you anymore. So what were his options? Unemployment or go to a new company? And then when he said, I'm going to go to a new company because I want to keep working, he went to the company that said, we're going to give you the most money. This all seems logical, Mo. This all seems to make sense from a business point of view. But now his character is being dragged through the mud because he's not loyal and he's disingenuous and he's disrespecting his time with the other bit. Mo, who cares? The other business said, we no longer want you.
The other business also went out and spent money on all kind of other players. They didn't intend to give him a good deal. What the Eagles did is they valued him. They offered him the most money. And when you look at what the Eagles can do for him, Gene already alluded to this. Can you imagine Saquon Barkley back there with the RPO option that they're going to be able to do between? I just, it's so scary what the Eagles offense are going to be next year. And think about this. I look at Saquon and I say his skill set is very much on par with Christian McCaffrey. Very similar. So I don't think it's just what he can do from you in the backfield. I think he's going to be effective in the passing game as well. Like, he's a complete running back, but for the first time, he's going to play in a team where the first person we think to stop is Saquon Barkley. No, they're always talking about stopping Hurts and containing the wide receivers. I think Saquon Barkley is lining up to have his career year. That's what I believe. And for him to leave the Giants because they didn't want to pay him, and all of a sudden the whole city of New York is upset, he did what was best for Saquon Barkley financially and professionally.
You went from, just real quick, the 28th best offensive line to the second. You went from this is the more elusive one. The team that's seen the most 8-man boxes last year was the New York Giants. Out of 32 teams, they've seen the most 8-man boxes. The team that's seen the least, Philadelphia Eagles. You want to talk about a jump, open? That is, that tells you all you need to know.
And Gene, in all honesty, he probably extended his career a couple of seasons by making this move. By not taking the beating that he would have taken if he stayed with a team like the New York Giants. Another fan base that is singing the praises from the mountaintops this morning, Gene, is the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens signed King Henry. It's interesting because Ravens fans, if you go back and you look at the receipts, they did not always have nice things to say about one Derrick Henry, but now he is a Raven, so all is forgiven. Is it hype, or is it going to be substance this year with Baltimore? Because you're looking at a team that has the 2-time MVP in Lamar Jackson, but you're also looking at a team that is very Lamar driven when it comes to the rushing attack. We've been saying for years now that they just got a good running back in there that would put them over the top. Well, now they have King Henry, Gene. Is this going to put them over the top?
I'm going to sound like such a hater, and I don't mean to be this way, but I think that King Henry is a terrible fit for Baltimore's scheme and their offense. I think he needs legs to get moving for him to be a successful running back. He's not a great running back out of the shotgun. He likes to line up 6-7 yards behind the line of scrimmage to get his legs moving. And out of the read option, he's not your best overall weapon. You had Keaton Mitchell there last year. Kid's a burner. I think a speed running back is the way Baltimore needed to go, not a power guy. Now, granted, he's going to help them a ton in the red zone, but Lamar is excellent in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a bad fit. I think it's a round peg in a square hole. I think what Baltimore's seen was they had years and years and years of running backs that just weren't panning out. They would get injured with J.K. Dobbins and Keaton Mitchell and the Gus Bus. And they were like, we're going to invest some money in a running back. I just think they chose the wrong one.
And Gene, isn't this what Baltimore had been doing previously with wide receivers? They bring in all these wide receivers at the end of their career, their second or third team. It's their last couple of years in the league. One or two were decent. Most of them were not productive. For a while, they were drafting running backs. And to your point, they all kept getting hurt. Every year, all the running backs they would draft would go down. So now they're looking at it like, well, let's take the wide receiver strategy, which worked so well all these previous years, and let's apply it to the running backs. And let's go get a running back who, has a couple of years left in the tank. And that's what it looks like. They went out and got a name, which is what they've been doing with receivers. It hasn't really worked out. And now they have a name at running back. And like you just said, not the best fit. So what are we doing then?
I don't think that what they've done at wide receiver over the course of the last few years has been the wide receiver's fault. I think this is the first year I actually seen Lamar Jackson develop in that offense. And I think Todd Monken helped that out a ton with his scheme and the way he was having them get the ball out. And I've always said for years, I think Lamar Jackson hinders his receivers more than his receivers hinder him. But this year they looked a lot better. So I don't know if that will be a continued trend, if Todd Monken will continue to scheme people open. But what I do find very interesting is the playoff game where Baltimore lost, Todd Monken was one of the first people they blamed. They didn't blame Lamar for throwing in the triple coverage, or they didn't. I mean, obviously they should have blamed for the wide receiver for dropping the ball at the 1 yard line. Was that Zay Flowers? I forget who it was.
It was.
Yeah.
But dropping the ball at the 1 yard line, but they wanted to blame the offensive coordinator. And that's what they did prior to Todd Monken. And I just don't know if that team has big play or big game potential. So I don't like the fit. It reminds me of DeMarco Murray when he signed with the Philadelphia Eagles. Like that's exactly what it reminds me of. He had a great year in Dallas. Philadelphia signed him in some Chip Kelly system where he's not a shotgun running back and he was running speed outs to the outside and it just didn't work. And I feel like that you're gonna see that this year with Baltimore. Don't be surprised if Keaton Mitchell steals a lot of his, and it's a very running back by committee.
Keaton was great last season, so I know he got hurt, but when he was in there, like you said, absolute burner, and was literally he was earning the carries because of his performance. Mo, Gene mentioned the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is the only team to not really want to be a part of the free agent movement, Mo. Jerry's taking a different approach, which is we're going to do nothing. We're just going to kind of sit here. We're going to let people talk about when we're going to pay Dak and how much we're going to pay Dak. And we're not going to do anything else. What do you think of Jerry's approach, Mo?
They signed a long snapper. Just FYI.
They did. They did.
Okay.
They got a long snapper.
They got a long snapper. So Jerry's approach is, I'm going to worry about re-signing my guys, which I understand that, but your offensive line isn't what it used to be. Your defense gets shredded in the middle of the field. Like you don't need help on defense. You don't need to upgrade there.
Nope.
You don't have a running back that I can recall of. So you don't have a feature back. I just think when I look at their roster, I don't think no, they're set, they're good. But Jerry does. And if he wants to run with it that way, go ahead and run it back with the current roster. I don't think they'll be as good as they were last year. They'll probably win at least 10 games, but that's an interesting strategy. And look, they always say that the Cowboys don't really swing big in free agency, but I thought they would at least be active because I thought there were a couple of positions that they could have filled through free agency. But again, everybody has a different strategy.
What is Jerry doing, Gene? And I know that you don't love the Cowboys, but looking at it, does he honestly think his team is okay enough to where they can just draft what they need to fill some holes, and they might sign some guys after the draft, depending on where they are? Did they not need any big free agent names there?
I think you should look for them as a team that will potentially take one of the buyout contracts from LA. I don't know if you know this, but the Los Angeles Chargers have four of the top 12 cap hits in the entire league on one team. They have four guys that are getting paid $30 million or more. 2 wide receivers, 2 edge rushers. I think that you'll end up I think you'll see Dallas try to capitalize on some of those late buyouts after other teams have spent their free agency and put their teams and their rosters together. What I do think is interesting is Jerry's comments before free agency that we're going to go all in.
Yep, all in.
Doesn't that remind you of the Lewis Litt line on Suits where he's just he's like, yeah, money is not an option. $10,000. It's like, what? How much? I'm not spending that. So I don't know, but I know he's got to sign Micah. He has to sign Micah. He's already lost his left tackle, Teron Smith. I think that that Dallas is in a world of hurt, and I think that the cap hits are finally catching up to him. And now Dakota Rain wants to set the quarterback market again, $60 million. And listen, he couldn't have had a better season to do it, right? Finished second in MVP, and now he's going to set the quarterback market again and be mediocre for the next 3 years. I love it.
Before you get out of here, Gene, the Eagles very active in the early part of free agency. Where do you think the team stands as we get into the official start of free agency and we start to prepare for the draft? Are you happy with the moves they made? Anything that you're questioning?
I'm very happy with what they've made already. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's one of my favorite moves because he brings an attitude to that defense. He's a dog, and I think that Philadelphia Eagles team was missing that. And when he left last year, it was very obvious. They kept trying to figure out ways to replace him. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is a Swiss Army knife. He is a dog. He is a trash talker. He will hit you when you come across the middle. I'm a huge fan of that signing. Obviously, we talked about Saquon, but I think the Philadelphia Eagles have a really pressing need at the cornerback position. They let Avonte Maddox go. James Bradbury cannot, and I repeat this, cannot be on that roster to start the season. He was terrible last year. He all but quit on the team. He couldn't tackle. He was burnt on every play, and they need depth at the defensive tackle position. When Fletcher Cox retired, you cannot rely on Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis just to be your only defensive tackles. Jordan Davis plays 34 to 40% of the snaps. You have to have other guys back there at the DN position. Look for Hassan Reddick to be traded in the near future. Either him or Josh Sweat will be traded. That's what the signing from the Jets tells you. So they're not done. We'll see what happens. They have draft capital, but I'm very happy where it starts now. The biggest concern I have is lipstick on a pig. You set Kellen Moore up with an incredible offensive roster, and the Eagles have a bounce back year this year and win the division, 12, 13 wins. They compete for a Super Bowl. Guess who's getting a head coaching job next year? Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
And you cannot rely on Nick Sirianni to call the offense and call plays again. It just won't work. I love Vic Fangio. I love what they're doing on the defensive side of the ball, but we need to upgrade the cornerback position.
Gene, what's going on with Wire to Wire tonight?
Too much. We got a huge show tonight. We're doing the Midwest region for the sports character bracket. We have a lot of that. We're going to break down our top 5 linebackers in this draft. We're going to do our conference tourneys for college basketball. There's so much on the agenda. Our shortstops list for baseball. We have an action-packed show tonight. It's going to be tough to fit it in around 2 hours. But, hey, when you have no show afterwards right now, maybe we'll go above 2 hours. We'll see.
Hey, partner, before you let Gene go, you know what Gene doesn't like? He doesn't like the greatness of Coach Eric Taylor. Gene doesn't buy into the greatness of Coach Taylor.
So I don't want to go too far on this. I know you guys got another topic to get into, but Eric Taylor, like that show, and I love shows. Like I love TV shows. Like, and look, All American got really cheesy too. But like, I don't know how people love that show so much. That show comes off so cheesy. It is like, I feel like I'm watching a Full House football show.
That hurts.
Like, you don't feel that way? I don't know how that show comes off so cheesy to me.
Right here and here. Come on.
Gene, you mentioned it earlier. You talked about Louis Litt from Suits. Just a little sidebar related to Louis Litt. Pop Culture Phenomena is going to have his psychiatrist, Dr. Lipschitz, on the show next week.
That's awesome.
So that's nice little grab over there for Pop Culture Phenomena. You have a little Suits action happening. Which, by the way, they're all in commercials right now. Have you seen how they're all in commercials?
Yeah, I think that they're doing a redo of Suits.
Yeah, it's like Suits LA or something.
I'd love it. I love the show. I think Louis Litt has the best character arc on the entire show. You go from hating him to loving him to hating him. Like, he's got such a great character arc. I'm a fan. Yeah. Oh, by the way, to answer your question that I'll answer in the chat because the wrestling question that you have, I have a strong opinion on.
We'll see. We'll see you in the comments tonight later on, Gene.
Take care.
Mo, let's close out the show with some wrestling talk, shall we?
Love it.
Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is challenging for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. So the question becomes, will Sami Zayn end the streak of Gunther? At some point, Gunther has to drop the Intercontinental Championship if he is going to move in to the big title picture, which we all see him as getting there eventually and being a massive star on that stage for WWE. And as he has built this historic run with the IC title, the question has become, who is going to take it from him, because that's now a big thing. It's now a big moment of who is going to take the IC title from Gunther. It better not be Sami Zayn.
I'm with you on that, partner.
Sami Zayn was the hottest he will ever be when he was feuding with the Bloodline. He will never be that hot again. He was white hot during that. That was some of the greatest work, not just in his WWE career, but of his entire wrestling career. That was some of the best work that he has ever done. And that was the moment to do something with him. Whether you were going to give him the World's Championship, whether you were going to put him over Roman and have him end Roman, whether you were going to immediately parlay that into a US title run or an IC title run, that was the moment. Right when the Bloodline stuff wrapped up, if you weren't going to have him beat Roman, which obviously they weren't, whatever he did right after the Bloodline, that was the moment. And what did they do? They put the tag team titles on him. Fine. That was a great match. Him and Kevin Owens ending the streak of the Usos. Wonderful. Do not give him the IC. It does nothing. It does not. It's a moment. It's a moment, but it's not his moment. It's a moment because Gunther lost.
Right.
And that's not what you want, Mo. You don't want to walk away from it with your takeaway being, oh, Gunther lost. Your takeaway should be, damn, the person who won is on a rocket ship now, and they're about to be something. And I don't think that's Sami Zayn.
I don't either. I think he's a terrific performer, but I think that, as in all things, he has a ceiling, and I think his ceiling was being a tag team champion. I don't think I don't see him as a main event guy. I just don't. I think he's a terrific performer, but there's a ceiling. I don't see him up there with the Ortons and the Reigns and people of that nature. I think even the guy who no hiding this, everybody out there, I can't stand LA Knight, but even that guy makes more sense than Sami Zayn. I need somebody of a higher stature if Gunther's going to drop the belt to drop it to somebody of that ilk, not a Sami Zayn.
And no offense to Sami, face Sami is an underdog. He's an underdog. He's an underdog story. But that's all face Sami is. Sami was far more interesting and far more complex when he was conspiracy theory Sami.
Right.
That was a character, right? Like, you got behind that. You were intrigued to see him. When he was a face, but he was working with the Bloodline, it was funny because he had people to play off of. But face Sami, just by himself, amazing in-ring talent. Top notch, 5-star in-ring talent.
Correct.
That's it.
That's it.
Now that he's just by himself and he's not doing the comedy thing with the Bloodline, he's not doing the comedy thing with Kevin Owens as a tag team partner, just by himself as a face, he's just a great wrestler. And you need more than that if you are going, in my opinion, if you're going to end Gunther's reign.
Agreed, 100%. Like I just think that I need a bigger star, somebody of a bigger stature to take that belt off of him if he's going to lose it. I don't doubt for one moment that Sami Zayn will give him a terrific match. I just don't think Sami Zayn should be the guy to beat him.
And to Gene's comments in the chats, Jey Uso, I think, and I'm not a huge fan of Jey Uso, but as an individual singles talent, he needs that. That would be huge for him. His first singles title, ending Gunther's reign. He's been on a rocket ship since he left the Bloodline and came to Raw. Damian Priest is another one. He's had a singles championship before, but if he was to end Gunther and then eventually cash in his Money in the Bank and win that could be the start of his next rocket launch. You know, those are guys. LA Knights. I hate LA Knight. I'm not going to say no, not LA Knight. LA Knight should not end Gunther's reign because I just don't think they're ever going to give him the big belt. So I don't ever see him going to that next level. So no, not LA Knight. But those other two, I'm just saying.
No, I'm with you 100%. I love the idea of Damian Priest Jay Uso. I'm with both of that. That's more interesting. That's more compelling. I think Jay's ready to take that next step as a singles wrestler. So yeah, I love that idea.
And before we get out of here, Gene's talking in the chat about Cody finishing the story. We'll talk more about this next week. I don't think he's finishing the story.
Please finish the story.
I'm holding on to this. I don't think he's going to finish it, especially with The Rock potentially being around for the next calendar year as an in-ring wrestler here and there. I don't think he's going to finish it, but we'll talk about that more.
The story continues.
I think it continues, but we'll discuss that at a later time. It's not time yet. Later on, we'll talk about it. Mo, wrap us up.
Thank you guys so much for everybody in the chat. Thank you for everybody tuned into us from whatever device you are watching us live on. We appreciate you so much. You've listened to Chris and I. Like, sub, follow. Love you. Appreciate the support. Check out all the content that we have at Wire to Wire Network. Check us out.
Hey, I hope that some of you are watching us. Mo, you ever see those projectors that you put on the wall?
Yes.
I hope we're on someone's wall. I hope we're being projected onto the wall. I think that would be cool.
That means we made it.
That means we made it. If we're on your wall, I think we're going in the right direction. Make sure you're back here, same time, same place tomorrow morning. We're going to have more NFL stuff as more people get signed. We got MLB stuff with JG. All of that and more. Coffee and Sports